finish. They mean something, of course they do, but the stage ring means more. But these little points along the way, they're very, very important for them, because they could make the difference at the end of the race. Got wet quickly, hasn't it?
It certainly has. Standing water, side of the road. It's maybe it's what's to be expected a little bit later on, and that pinch point that Danny was talking about with 1,800 meters or 1,700 meters to go. You know, that's going to become magnified, Danny, especially with painted road surfaces, steel drain covers, you name it, as well as everyone else going crazy around you.
Yeah, of course it is. I mean, it's just going to be emphasising all of the points that we've made so far as to how important it is to be at the front. It just makes it even more sketchy and dangerous out there. So a 4-kilometre rule for today's stage. So if anything happens in the last 4 kilometres, everyone will remain on the same time for the GC. So it just takes the GC riders out the mix somewhat as to getting really, well, worried about that final. And then the 3-second rule again. So in the final, if there's any gaps that develop, the riders will stay on the same time, even if they're 3 seconds apart, which actually equates to, I had someone doing the maths for me, it's not my strong point, but at 70 kilometres an hour, a 56-metre gap.
It's massive.
It is huge.
Yeah.
Just looking at, had they not imposed the 4-kilometre rule, 3K's marker just comes very close after a very high pace, as it will be, left-hander. So thank goodness that's invoked today. It probably indeed, of course, added to the design of today's course, the fact that it was 4 kilometres. So there will be an easing off, albeit with a drag race down to that turn just before 3. There's a whole sequence of those to be enjoyed, or indeed endured, a little bit later on. In case you were wondering, Biniam Girmay leads the points competition by 10 points clear of Mads Pedersen. He's on 119 points, Mads Pedersen on 109. Jesper Philipsen nudging up close to the 100 now on 98 after winning the 20 points from the intermediate sprint. 50 up for grabs, we remind you, at the finale today. And that's where Mark Cavendish sits, 9th overall on 50 points, one behind Arnaud Damar. Well, the weather can't decide what to do. We've had rain, we've had sunshine, and that means rainbows and a pot of gold at the end of it. Who's going to win today, Adam?
Flipping heck, Carlton. I have no idea. Not a clue. It's wide open. I'd love to see Cav win again.
Who did you predict in the predictor?
Philipsen.
Okay, good shout. I actually went for Cav, Carlton.
Good for you.
I know. I mean, the stars are aligned, aren't they? You know, and I think obviously they're going to be buzzing as a team. But I think coupled with that, the added pressure that's now on the shoulders of the other sprinters, the likes of Philipsen, who's still, you know, came into this tour as the favourite, just not on his best. So, yeah, I mean, he's got a lot on his side, hasn't he, Mark Cavendish, for today. You
know, we talk about pirates and those with I don't know, a knife between a cutlass between their teeth. That's the way for me. For I don't know, Gaviria's been going. He looks fantastic. Wasn't involved yesterday, but he got second place behind Girmay in the rough stuff around Torino. And the way he's surfing wheels at the moment, I'm actually loving watching him. And I kind of never know what to expect from him. So, yeah, I'd quite like to go a little bit left field with Gaviria today. I know it's a bit of an odd one. I mean, my heart,
calm down with that left field of a previous Tour de France stage winner. Crikey.
Well, he's got no support. That's the point with Gaviria. Whole team was really designed around Enric Mas, so he has to do it on his own. And I love that. I always think the lonesome sprinters need a bit of support. So that's where I'm just parking up my affections today. But obviously, if Cav wins, I'll be going suitably mental.
Of course.
Yes, exactly. Well, they're all embedded at the moment, and despite that, 50 kilometres an hour, it's a crosswind coming in. It'll be hitting them on their left shoulder. So, yeah, at the moment, just screened a little bit by some of the trees. You do get this buffeting when you get into the wide open, where you never quite know when the wind is going to hit you. And, of course, if you're screened by a dirty, great big chateau. This is the Chateau de Rosé that we're looking at. I think I might have a little bit on this. The Chateau Rose, by the way, in Medoc, provided my wedding wine all those years ago. Anyway, yes, Louis the XVI style, apparently, classical Versailles model, is it? can't see too much topiary, but anyway, there you go. Was partially destroyed by Antoine Cleguet. What was he using, a blowtorch or something? Oh no, he was the chief captain of the French falconry. I don't know. Go figure. What was the Hawk up to that day? Well, the place nearly burnt down, and they rebuilt it. And apparently, he decided to build the current chateau to be more worthy of his rank. Oh, I see. He destroyed the other one deliberately because he didn't think it was fancy enough. You get the idea. Anyway, don't worry. John Armstrong is going to be back at the weekend.
Didn't want to say anything, but thank goodness for that.
Yeah, exactly. Oh dear.
I'm in the same boat, Carlton. I tried to read out a recipe the other day. It just went awfully wrong.
I don't know.
Wrong.
Do you know what? I thought you did a really good job of that. I
think you might be the only person that thought that, Carlton. But thank you. I'll take it. I'll take it.
I'm waiting to see the Saint Isidore Church, which is very reminiscent of the of something designed by Elon Musk. You'll see what I mean when we get there. Anyway, 107.2 kilometres from home. Smiles have started to wash over them again. Not surprised, because poor old Nils Pollitt is not being asked to get on the front and start chewing off the end of his tongue. What is that poker tell, Danny? I fear for him sometimes. He's going to be lisping at the end of the day.
I love reading into riders' body language, facial expressions and the like, but yeah, I think he'll keep us guessing somewhat. And you can see now the tension is building, and this is because at around 100 kilometres to go, we've got a very exposed section on and off for about 10 kilometres, and after that they'll take a turn into what will then become tailwind. So I think we're going to see a bit of a stressful peloton soon.
Do you know, it just takes one team to start. I think the only problem is at the minute, all the teams that are up there are quite happy with the situation. They don't want to be the first to move. So if you look at the composition at the front, you've got Ineos, UAE, Movistar, Bahrain, Lotto, Visma Lease Bike and Red Bull. None of those teams are going to be the first ones that want to kick things off first. They'll be all relatively happy with how they're sitting in the peloton, safe at the front. It only takes one team to start, but I think with all those teams, they're not necessarily wanting to.
And what team is going to want to start it? Well, like, who does this benefit? If you look at the roster of these teams, maybe for Arnold Delis, you know, we discussed that. What riders are going to benefit off a harder day? Mads Pedersen, but then he crashed yesterday, so he's not going to want to work any harder than he needs to when he's trying to recover from that big crash.
I think that's the thing. It's so far out as well. You know, you've got 100k to go. That's a long way to keep committing to it. In a win that's gusty, but it's not constant, so it's even harder to judge that. And I think after that, they have to remember as well is that if nothing happens, it's just going to cause even more stress than what's happening right now in that peloton. All riders will start to become more stressed. They'll start to fight for position a little bit more. So you have to ask the question, is it worth wasting that energy, or do we wait closer to the final where we can commit all the way to the finish, regardless if whatever it might be, how far it is to go, regardless if the peloton splits. Once they're at the front and they're making things hard, it's still going to be hard for people to move up into a crosswind that might not be big enough to split, as I said, but it's still going to hurt the legs.
We're going to go to the Yenzi, who's going to give us his latest update. I don't know whether he's going to be wet or dry. Let's find out. Which sandpaper?
So we are right now in a dry patch again, or just wet. 5 kilometers to go, and if you could see my view, in about 5 kilometers, I'm gonna get a few more raindrops. So the ingredients for a spectacular recipe are all here. Changing road conditions. We crossed a few really cute, charming villages, but this is not a coffee stop ride. This is the Tour de France with some 174 riders back there together. So all these tiny little villages, beautiful but small roads and a lot of turns. The road conditions go from brand new road to average roads. The wind goes from, oh, I don't feel it, to actually it's blowing really strong, really good right now. So everything is there. All it needs now is a team or a rider to light up that match and start the fire, and we will see a dramatic finale. I believe nobody is willing to do it right now because it's simply too long to go. No team feels we have the horsepower to ride 85 or 80 kilometers en bloc with the entire team together. So they're all going to be waiting for, let's say, 30, 40 kilometers to go. I promise it will be absolutely nerve-wracking finale, but in a moment, it's kind of like, I don't hurt you, you don't hurt me, we all watch each other, but nobody wants to go first. And back to the commentator.
Beautifully teed up for us. It's that sense of unpredictability, Danny.
Yeah, of course it is, and again, that's what makes it exciting for us, isn't it? Because we don't know what's going to happen, and sprint stages are always so hard to predict. And like Adam said, with the speed of the wind, whether it's hard enough to split, what teams want to do, and that's what makes our sport so exciting to watch.
Just looking at security trying to get through here. A lot of people occasionally dial in and say these motorcycles are making a real nuisance of themselves, but they're there for our safety, Adam. They're the ones that are making safe the roads and making sure that the junctions are locked down for the riders to come through safely, and they've got to get past them first to be able to close those roads down.
They do indeed. Sadly, Carlton, that motorbike's a camera motorbike.
Well, there's three of them, to be fair, but anyway.
I think the camera motorbikes, you know, on a route like this today, they have certain points where they can nip off, but they want to be in front of the peloton. They take the pictures, come back, and then they'll jump off or try and go ahead of the peloton again. But when it's like this, it is so difficult to get past. You can see the motorbike just at the bottom of your screen, just going backwards now. So they'll get the call through from one of the regulators on the motorbike, and then they will give them the go-ahead if they think it's safe or not. But they can only see what's in front of them, really. They have to guess when it is. And coming into a town, you're never going to get through anyway. And when the peloton's like it is, there are moments when you do have to squeeze through. So the riders respect that, but also they must respect the riders when it's a tense moment coming into town. Just back off. And
it's after this town where it becomes exposed. Yeah. So, you know, like Adam said, it's the safety is paramount for these riders, but it is their bike race at the end of the day. So they don't want a bike coming up their left-hand side when they're all fighting for position. They don't want to give that position up at a critical moment. So there, of course, there is that respect for motorbikes as they try to come past, but it's that mutual respect which they need to have.
A rather Moorish look, I must admit, to the Church of St. Peter and St. Paul here. It's rather beautiful, I must admit. So there's been a spire off in the locale here. Obviously had some money to spend in the past.
It's also been a big fire.
There has. Gosh. Yeah, doesn't look like that long ago either. Just dwelling on a dukedom declared. That was a nasty little squeeze as well. Plenty of whistles blaring, as you can see. A pennant man as well, just saying, watch out for this. Sleeping policeman. And look at the hand signals going on. They're raining in here, Adam. Yeah, they will do, and they'll get the updates with the team cars, some team staff going out in front and relaying all this information back to the teams. All have it now. They can look at VeloView. They've got the road book with the points that are dangerous in there, but just re-emphasising it to the team car at this kilometre to go. There is a dangerous point. You need to be right up towards the front. Matty Mohoric just accelerating ever so slightly at the front of that bunch. Ineos Grenadiers reacting to it. So there are dangerous points coming up. Feedback. Sorry, feedback. Gone awry. A powder flare. An idiot. Anyway, yeah, Henry IV decided that he quite liked the wine round here, so he bought the vineyard, the Givry Terroir. Royal Connection, that's what it was. I was speculating as to what the royal emblem was on the old arch, just where it had been burnt down. Something on it, a barbecue gone out of control. Yeah, the Côte Chalonnaise apparently was favoured by Henry IV. Thought that's a nice drop. I'll have some of that, because that's how he spoke back in the day. Well, he not quite sure what the pink piglets are representing here, but it's a fine inflatable outfits there. Or maybe not.
But they're quite happy that it's not too hot today.
Yeah, exactly. Looks like a onesie I could fit in. Anyway, we've got about 100 kilometres to go. And the wind, let's have a look. Oh, 18, it's picking up. We're getting there. We're getting there to the magic 19 as an average. And indeed the gusts they're in. And here we are. We come up out of town. Little wide open range, Adam, for us to deal with. And they're all wise to it.
Yeah, just a descent like this, ever so slightly downhill, it'll string things out a little bit. Then it's at the bottom if there's a turn or if it's open after it. That's when the riders will start to really try to push forward a little bit. That stress will come. The police motorbikes, as you mentioned, Carlton, moving up on the left, squeezing everyone. If there was a really dangerous point right now, they wouldn't move. They wouldn't give them that room because there'll be such a fight behind. But you can just tell by the way that they are slightly relaxed behind. They are slightly just, you know, letting those gaps open up a bit. It's not too stressful, but that'll be the riders that, you know, the stage hunting later on in the race. They don't necessarily have a GC guy to really protect today, or a sprint they really have to protect. So Van der Poel towards the back as well. He's quite confident in his own ability. He's quite confident that nothing will happen because of the composition, probably the teams that are on the front, neither of them wanting to split it up, or hoping at least they don't want to split it up. So yeah, it's just constant, Carlton. It's just constant stress for more the GC teams than anything. The sprinters teams will be a little bit more relaxed. That's why we're not really seeing, apart from Lotto towards the front, but the rest of them just sat back behind a little bit. Cavendish just on the right, the left-hand shoulder of Victor Campenaerts, so still right towards the front, just in case as well.
It's the Château de Gemol. There we are. Apparently, best preserved residence of the Dukes of Burgundy, and we know how much they like that wine. So no wonder they were so well preserved. It's also one of the few residents of this type, apparently, that survived from the 14th century. I don't know what sacking went on after that, but apparently it was confiscated by the Gemol estate from the Duke of Burgundy and handed to his own wife, the Duchess Margaret III of Flanders. There you go. Have yourself a nice little holiday home. Of course, the big screen TV wasn't installed back then, but anyway. Team Radio, Itamarshi Wanti.
Okay, we gather as much as possible around Bini. Bini, make sure they know where you are.
He's the man. He's taken an advantage in the intermediate sprint for his nearest rival, and that's Mads Pedersen. And as a result, he's increased his lead in the points competition to 10. Winner of the intermediate sprint, Jesper Philipsen, is just nudging up towards the 100. He's on 98 points, but you need 117 if you want to make a big noise for green a little bit later on. There is 50 points up for grabs at the finale today, let's not forget. Binim Gunay wears green, magnificently so. Look at that.
It's interesting that they say gather round Binny. They obviously just mean right towards the front, but most of his teammates are there, but quite far back, as is Adam Yates. You just see every time they come out of a roundabout, there's acceleration from each and every one of these teams, just trying to make sure they hold that position at the front. Tom Pidcock on the right-hand side, Jorgensen coming up along him from Visma Leasebike, trying to get to the left-hand side of our screens, back to his teammates. It only takes one team, Carlton. It just takes one team to give it that big hot tour and really go for it.
Well, it feels like it's going to come, doesn't it?
It does indeed.
Yeah. Look how serious life is at the front. Cueto getting a little bit twitchy as well. He's always got an extra sense when it comes to moments such as this. Little rises and falls. They start to look at how trees are screening the road, how the corn's moving, I guess you might say. Well, let's see how it pans out, shall we? Julien Bernard. Yes, went very close in the French champs, didn't he? Quite work out for him. The jersey heading off to the shoulders of Paul Lapera. And meanwhile, you saw the 4 helicopters resting up with the work time directive. They've got to have their lunch, for goodness sake. And it looks like they're back airborne again, which means we've got these gorgeous swooping shots for you, which almost seem to magnify, Danny, the pace of everything. Just held up at the moment, but you feel like it's going to go.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
There we are.
Adam's laughing at me here. But yeah, I mean, this is one of the most exposed.
Say this politely.
This is one of the most exposed. I'm trying to be kind here, Carlton. But yeah, this is one of the most exposed parts here, and it doesn't look like it is going to split. You know, you've got the teams obviously trying to protect themselves and come to the front. Visma Leasebike, specifically with a couple of riders just coming over to the right-hand side to join their teammates here. But again, I just don't think it's strong enough, unfortunately, for us as viewers. But I think happily for the riders themselves that have been building up and getting themselves ready for the potential of it going bananas.
Did see the flags there. It's absolutely, it couldn't be more perfect in terms of a crosswind, Adam.
Carl, and honestly, The way that the wind is today, it could cause absolute carnage. It is, as we saw, around that 18 kilometres an hour mark. If it was 25, 27, then it would be an absolutely completely different day. It'd be like Paris-Nice, with the big groups all over the road. It'd be ridiculous. It would be such a hard day out, but it's just the way it is, where, as we heard from Remco Evenepoel, that he was just saying, you know, with the teams that are here, the riders' forms that's here, it is going to take a huge, huge effort for any team to be able to split it, any team to be able to really make a huge difference. And for that reason, we've just got this stress with nothing really happening, just the positioning, always staying towards the front, always staying vigilant, always staying in that right position. Yes, it causes a lot of stress, but it's just not quite enough at the minute. We need to get those big gusts that you referenced of 25 k's an hour up to 30 k's an hour, maybe even more than that. If we get them, then it will change. It will naturally start to break up.
What's Decathlon got to say? Well, Steph, who's at the head-on course, is telling us that in 10 kilometres will be in a part that saw this morning open, closed, and it will be the first strategic point. And here we go. It is starting to kick off because of that slight change in direction. And as you can see, they just want their focus. And the team that is kicking off is Lotto Destiny. They've gone for it. Campenaerts is starting to drive them on. And here we are. We suddenly get that tongue of the viper just licking out up the road here, 61 kilometres per hour. A complete change of complexion, Danny.
Yeah, a complete change, and it is Lotto Destiny that have taken it up here for Arnaud Delis, of course, who is now on the front himself. So it would have been that communication between the teams as they just navigate that little bit of road furniture there in the middle of the screen. But let's see if there's enough wind to split things up.
It's just in that moment coming into a town.
20.
There's these 20 k's an hour, as you referenced, Colin, and these road furniture in the middle of the in the middle of the thing here. Robbie referenced this in our little meeting we did with being Lotto Destiny, that Arnaud Delis would like it hard on a day like today. He would like it to ramp up, but it's just, you can see how many riders have been fresh, waiting for it, waiting for that one team. They're all vigilant, they're all looking for it, they're all waiting for it. No one is necessarily going to be surprised by any move. The wind needs to be a lot stronger than what it is, but just look at the composition of everyone, how stressed they're getting. It's that movement all over the road. Tadej Pogačar right towards the front, barging with his teammates.
Out of Fontaine, this will be exiting from a screen, I imagine, from the village, and also the planted arboretum at the side of the road here, acting as a screen. They're all marking each other out at the moment. Well, no breakaway to speak of today, and I'm just wondering whether that might actually settle things down. I think it's going to be too much pace for that even to be allowed or indeed thought of. Tadej Pogačar being picked out for you, Jonas Vingegaard as well, all the main players in the GC up towards the fore. It's about preservation at the moment, Danny.
Yeah, of course it is, and you can just feel that, can't you? You can see riders on the left-hand side trying to make their way back to the front of the peloton now. Just caught out slightly, perhaps.
I'm just trying to see where Remco is still. I can see a few of his teammates.
He's hard to spot.
He's really hard to spot. He's almost unrecognisable now.
Yeah, even physically he's changed. He looks like he's shed an awful lot of weight to cope with the climbs.
2.5 kilos apparently since the Dauphiné. I saw that he'd
and he didn't have much to lose, did he? He didn't really appear to have it to lose, but he looks like a different animal. And of course he blends in with the Total kit, the Intermarché Wanty kit, the Bahrain kit, and the UAE Team Emirates kit. It's kind of hard to pick out the white jersey, and because he's got a different body form, even more so. Just look at this. It's like a roller coaster ride at the moment. Gently so, you understand. There are some undulations today and some spectacular places as well. Chateau de Rouy, and yes, Rouy is indeed a wine. John Harris Bath would now, I am sure, be going into apoplexy as to our description of this, but nonetheless. Rue de Ternay owns the chateau. The Raoul de Ternay, I should say. Maybe he's a good vintner. I've no idea, but there's plenty of wine around here for you to enjoy. Basically, mark it off. Go and wiki it, and you'll get the idea. It's a massive wine estate, which is why it's preserved, because as the armies wash through here, they want their wine as well. So it never got destroyed. 320 years old. Back to the racing. You can see there's just no cover out here, Adam. If there are some squalls, they're going to have an impact.
There are, yeah. There'll be, as we heard from the Wanty radio earlier, saying everyone make sure you're around Binney. You can see a couple of riders towards the back, but majority of the teams will be either around their leader, their sprinter, their leader for the day, let's say, and each and every one of them will probably be wanting to be towards the front. You know, if we look at all the helmets there, generally most of them helmets, they've got 2 or 3 of them around each other, you know, teammates always around each other, and that's how it's going to be. I think for a lot of the riders you can rely heavily on your teammates, but then you look at the likes of Mark Cavendish just at the front there, like one shot we had just at the front. He's on his own. There's not many teammates around him, and he's just taking responsibility for himself. He knows that he has to be up there. He knows that he has to stay near the front, and he's not waiting for his teammates to do it. He's not relying on them. And there's a moment in time within the peloton, yes, you need your teammates, but you've also got to fight yourself. You've also got to be up there yourself. And he is right in the middle of that bunch, about 2 lines back, just keeping himself in that perfect position at the minute, just in case anything happens.
And he's good at that, isn't he? I mean, there's some riders that are better than navigating themselves through the peloton than others. I know for me, I needed about
another acceleration.
10, not that I could have it. Teammates around me. You can just see the riders now getting out of the saddle before this little bit of technical road furniture again, roundabout to navigate through here. And I think this is what the DS from Intermarché was alluding to as we get closer to this next town. There's a bit of a technical section as well, so just trying to keep themselves safe here. But again, Mark Cavendish, one of those riders that doesn't necessarily need teammates to get himself in the right place. So like Adam said, it's about taking onus as well for where you are in the peloton.
Well, nervy but solid at the moment, 48 kilometres an hour, and the wind being described beautifully by the flags. We'll come to Robin McEwen a little bit later on to describe the dernier of those and their flappability. He's an expert. Well, it has, the pace just ebbed a little bit, and we're about to flow with Rob Hatch is about to join us. Rob, you kind of feel that drama is going to happen at any moment. We keep going for it. We keep getting that little build up to what we think is going to be a launch, and then it doesn't quite happen, but it's any moment now, mate.
I think I'm sat about 15 centimetres further forward on the seat than where I was 10 minutes ago.
I know what you mean.
Like the riders, they will be as well, just waiting.
Every acceleration I move forward a little bit, and you could just see, Adam, that last acceleration, both you and Danny pointed out a moment ago, that was fierce. I've looked at the Velo viewer, and we're just over 10 kilometres away from a tailwind. Yeah. So if you could force the issue here, you'd have to help after that. But again, does anybody really want to do it? It's looking around, it's being at the front, and the nerves, this almost being the self-fulfilling prophecy and creating the problems themselves.
So here is the easy part that they're in now. Being in position is fine. They can save energy within the wheels. The part you mentioned, Rob, where there's the tailwind, that for me is what they need to sprint into. You sprint into the tailwind, block the road like this, then it's harder for the riders behind. The pace will start to move up. Look who's moving up on the left-hand side, a certain Mathieu van der Poel and his teammates as well. But if they go down that tailwind section super fast, there's a section after about 20 k's of that tailwind section, they turn left into crosswind, and that's where it'll be crucial, because you have tailwind super strung out, super fast, into that crosswind, back into tailwind, then you're into the last 45k, then it's crosswind all the way to the finish. So I think that middle section of crosswind, that's where we might see the differences, because it is going to be so strung out in the tailwind, and riders won't be as fresh because they don't have the wind in front of them or from the side. So definitely one of those crucial points is coming up during today's stage. But as I said before, there are so many riders ready for it, Rob. There's so many riders just expecting this to happen at any given moment, and the acceleration we saw, that's just to get round one roundabout. That's to hold position at the front. So just accelerate hard, really put in that big effort just to stay in position, not to gain anything, but just to stay in that position. The stress, it's so hard to understand what it's like within that peloton now, but it is shouting, screaming, elbow in your bum, lever in your bum, little brake here, little acceleration there. And if you're at the front, it obviously minimises all those efforts you have to make. So it's crucial that you are in a good position. And on that, I'm off.
You're off, moving, vacating your position. Can't believe after having worked so hard to be in the right point, just in case there's echelons, you're off back to the team car. This is not the Adam Blythe I know.
I know, but I'll be there, just under the radar, being annoying.
See you later on, Adam.
See you in a bit, mate.
Bon appetit. There's Primož Roglic right hand side for Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe. His compatriot left hand side in the yellow jersey, Tadej Pogačar. Yellow jersey number 24 for him today. And we closer to Jonas Vingegaard, who has 27. Of course, it's 2 each in terms of the number of Tour de France they've won. 88.5 kilometres again. Look at this, upping in pace here, Danny. They're coming through a town. It's the fight for the right position as they go in and out of every corner. The road narrows, then it widens. There's excitement with every pedal stroke, and there's still 88 k's to go.
Yeah, there really is. UAE now pushing towards the front to make sure they're in a good position. And you can see through here just the change of direction in the roads, the narrowing as well, just makes it that more nervy, doesn't it? You can see how much more narrow it's become here. And then, like you were saying, Rob, at 77.6 kilometres to go, they'll turn right into that tailwind section and then have around just over 10 kilometres before it turns back into a crosswind. So it's going to be so hard once into a tailwind to move up again, and that's why every single rider now here towards the front needs to maintain their position on the road.
The envelopes constantly being pushed, the boundaries being reached and overpassed, and that can provoke accidents and problems as well. That's the other danger around every corner here today. Stage 6 of the Tour de France, 87.5 kilometres to go. That is through our latest town, into Beaune here. On our way to Dijon today after having left Macon. And on the right, as we look at it, white jerseys of UAE Emirates. Yellow helmets on, they lead the team classification. And of course the yellow jersey on the back of Pogacar, who leads the whole thing. 45 seconds is margin over Remco Evenepoel, who's in the white jersey. Soudal Quick-Step much further back and not showing their faces at the front. Almost seems strange to see a day that could be dominated by crosswinds and not Robbie McEwen. See a Belgian team right up there in the shape of Soudal, but your old mates from Lotto are there.
Well, maybe that's the thing, Rob. They're Belgians. They say, wind? That's not wind.
Having said that, I have a bone to pick with you. I mean, you went back to visit your Belgian family the other week. I think you took the Gold Coast weather with you, didn't you? Because we logged on for a little pre-Tour de France briefing, and there was Mr. McEwen on the beach, glass of rosé in hand, and I said, oh, that looks nice down in Australia. No, I'm in Belgium, mate. What?
Yeah, I was in Knocker. It is, yeah, very un-Belgian weather. But, I mean, you guys had that heat wave across here as well. Oh, Rob, you've always got a heat wave down where you live in Mallorca. But yeah, it was a wonderful day. I got a bit sunburnt.
Can I just set the scene here?
No
we all log on to this call, very professional, getting ready for a nice little intake, the bit of inside information from one of the DSs. Then Robbie logs on, he's topless on a sunbed in Belgium with his sunglasses on, sipping some wine, making us all very, very jealous indeed.
Well, we each have our own versions of professionalism.
Clearly mine's different to yours, Robbie.
This is the version being employed at the front right now by Visma Leasebike, Robbie, because they're up there, they're on the radio, left as we look at it, fighting to keep the place on the road, because it's right the turn that's coming up.
Yep, it's getting more and more critical now. No glasses of rosé, shirts on and all.
You can see Cav as well, just to the left-hand side of the screen. Just got a couple of teammates around him, one in front, one behind, just making sure he's well positioned here as well. You can really feel this now.
It's been all day, hasn't it, though? Just purely the threat of some crosswinds, wind gusts at any point. They're at the ready all day. Yep.
Be aware, guys, that Bahrain and also part of UAE are directly behind you, okay? So on one moment they're going to try and squeeze to get through. Really important those guys in the back position that you're able to block there, okay?
And that's the view of sports directors watching this on the television, but crucially, Robbie, on delay.
Yeah, well, that's the thing, the radio communications that we get and we see, they do wait a little while to put those through, and that's at the behest of the teams, because they say, if we're going to say something that is in, oh, little moment there, just off the edge of the road.
Watch Ben Turner here as well, number 38. When he got that information relayed to him from the DS, he just kept looking over his left-hand shoulder. Mathieu van der Poel's just behind, just making sure no other team can squeeze up their inside.
You know, the smart riders, they place themselves behind teams like Visma Leasebike, like Ineos Grenadiers, like Red Bull, because they know if I stick with them, pretty reliable to get me at the front or keep me at the front. What fun art now.
Well, it must all be kicking off in the famous control room, mustn't it? Because they've moved to the front at just the right time. Here is Wout van Aert. Christophe Laporte on his wheel. Look at the wind blowing right to left as we look at it here. And they're about to go into a position where they'll have the wind behind.
And this is what's caused this urgency, this sort of feeling of tension all day long, as the wind forecast was, in general, sort of 18 to 24 kilometres an hour, but very importantly, most importantly, gusts up to 40 kilometres an hour. You get a strong enough gust at the right time for a sustained length of time in the right place, all falls apart.
Yeah, and you can see Ben Turner's role really coming into its own here. He was brought in almost in replacement of Luke Rowe, who was the best at making sure the team were positioned at these sorts of moments within a race, within a Grand Tour, and the Tour de France obviously being the biggest one there is. So he's doing a stellar job here and making sure his team are well positioned.
It's the first of a couple of right turns coming up. Bernal making sure he's right towards the front as well, looking around to find his teammates. Turner not too far behind. De Plus is there as well. Left hand side, we can see Benoot moving up just in front of Jonas Vingegaard. This now is Laporte pointing out the obstacles as he and his teammates, and of course those they're competing against. It's signalling for everybody here. Traffic islands left and right. The little villages can often be the worst, can't they? And this is Tom Pidcock, who's choosing to stay for the moment out of the melee at the front. Big job being done by Bernal here. Turner moves back to the front, just as Danny was talking about. Right hand side as we look at it, orange, red, dark jersey on. Here's the European champion Laporte, who's been riding for the last couple of kilometres in unison with Van Aert, but Benoot has joined him at the front, and you can see why they're more worried about this sector. It's not only the turn that's coming up in the next few kilometres, but the road's narrow here through villages, and it's much more exposed.
Yeah, twisting and turning, and you get those sections of the course where you come through these villages, a few twists and turns, it elongates the peloton, and there'll come a time when they come out of one of these villages and we'll get a big open exposed section, and that's where then they can really twist the throttle and start doing some damage to their rivals.
Jonas Vingegaard in the first few positions here. The yellow jersey Tadej Pogačar, Danny, all the way down in about 30th position. And look how long the line of riders is here. It's a big job to get from back to front if there's a problem.
It's a huge job, and yeah, Tadej Pogačar a little bit too far back, in my opinion, but he'll do what he can to keep chipping away at those placings. And look at this. It's an almost probably 500 metres here between the front and the back of the peloton, and these riders at the back have got a huge amount to make up.
I'm going to say this is the type of stage with these conditions, maybe not really blustery enough to cause havoc, but this is the type of stage that maybe the other teams have identified. This is where we can get Pogačar under pressure, because their team is absolutely stacked with star climbers. But outside of that, you've got Tim Wellens and Nils Pollitt.
He's coming up, though,
yeah, he's coming up, and he can handle himself in a bunch, let's face it. But that's maybe their one vulnerability. They don't have a whole lot of firepower to look after Pogačar on a day like this. And it might not be that they can get rid of Pogačar today, but they want to just have him under pressure the entire time. That death by 1,000 cuts. Just keep plugging away. Maybe you'll get a day where he's not paying attention, something goes wrong, there's a split. But if you can just gradually wear him down, that's what it's about too.
Making him work harder the day before the time trial too.
That's what makes the best Tour de France rider, though, doesn't it? Ultimately, they have to be able to do it all, and that's what makes it so impressive for these GC guys who generally are the lighter riders, maybe not as powerful on the flat terrain in the wind, but they have to be able to do it all. Yeah.
It's Paul Lapeyra, French national champion. May well have had a mechanical, obviously not the best time to get back on if that's the case. He's got his team car in front of him. Now keep your eyes on this. Here it is exposed. There's one or two wheels opening up halfway down the peloton. If you're caught in the second half, Robin McEwen, alarm bells are ringing. If they're not, they should be.
Oh, no.
And here's Mark Cavendish. It's a mechanical for Cavendish, and those splits occurring up ahead. It was all fun and games yesterday. It was smiles and happy faces here, though. There's a real job to do.
Yeah, real poor timing to have a problem, but you don't get to choose. That is the problem. But yeah, fractures appearing now in this peloton. And just, you look around, the flags up at the top of screen. Yes, there's a breeze. It's not it's not blowing a hoolie by any standards. But if you mark Cavendish, this is going to take a lot of energy to come back. But with his experience, everything he's gone through in the Tour and in the past, as well as all the other races he's ever ridden, he's not going to panic. He's going to cruise along, wait for the team car, get himself right onto the bumper bar, try and ride his way back.
There's the split. There's the split, Robbie. Sorry to interrupt, but look at this. It's really opening up now. There's a group forming at the front behind, a little bit of hesitation as to who's going to pull. You could just see at the back there are a couple of blue and white jerseys. I don't know whether they were Movistar or Sudal Quickstep. They made that little bit of an effort to make it on, and now they're actively trying to split this and move it up. It's the yellow jersey, the race leader Tadej Pogačar, the world champion, of course, who is Mathieu van der Poel. They're all getting involved here.
Oh, that's the best way to protect yourself in this situation, is be involved. Because if you're trying to just sit on and save all your energy, you end up getting shuffled back, and eventually you'll find yourself on the edge of the road getting no protection. So you might as well be one of the aggressors, especially if all your rivals are doing it. But Evenepoel, he's pretty calm, cool and collected back here.
A couple of his teammates who tried to try and close the gap to get behind. They're about to turn right into a tailwind, and if you've got a gap, the tailwind to help you along here. This is a key moment in the race. If you're stuck in the second group, the gap is growing to it. You might not see the front again.
You might not, and that's going to become very stressful. Look at the gap now. This is a really significant gap that's formed, and like you said, Rob, we're going to turn into a tailwind, and it's going to make it really tough for these riders to get themselves back on. We're just going to try and look through this group now as to who has missed this split.
A few UAE riders, but they're in sort of dribs and drabs. There's no one team who's absolutely trying to take control and chase, which would say that most, if not all, leaders are in this front group.
Yeah, you can see Jonas here, Tadej Pogačar's obviously here. Ineos are happy with this. They've got Carlos Rodriguez in this front group as well.
18 seconds and growing, Robbie, approaching that right turn away from Bourne into the next 10 kilometres of tailwind. But then there's a left turn and it's crosswind once again. This really doesn't stop now until the finish.
Yeah, there's nothing really to stop the momentum of this front group. It's ideal, the situation where you've already split it. You want to be turning into a tailwind if you're going to be turning at all. Then it's back into crosswind, tailwind again. So this could potentially go all the way to the finish. It's after a while this group will start to sort of really take a look around and say, have we caught anybody out? And that's when you may see just them ease off the gas a little bit, because if you haven't caught anybody out, why buckle yourself?
Just
in terms of sprinters,
as well.
Yeah, I was just about to say the same. He's in the group. He's in the group. This is the second group, 25 seconds and growing. Cavendish, of course, having had that untimely mechanical. In fact, this is the leading group now, 25 seconds in front. Duli is in the group as well. Germay, who you spotted, I can see Aramburu as well, who's fast enough. Gaviria's in there for Movistar too. And this is Pogačar on the radio, I guess, checking who's present and correct from his lot.
Yeah, and that'll be the role of the DS. You just saw him talking into the radio there. So the DS will be on the radio to all of these riders, just looking at the composition of the group. And like you said, whether it's worth pushing on with this. Have they caught anyone out that it could be critical to keep driving this one forward? Geraint Thomas there as well, just with a gel hanging out of his mouth. But Bora, Red Bull are going to be happy with this one too, having Roglic. So the big four are here, Rob.
Yeah. Remco also pushing his way forward now, just hanging around the front, making sure he's staying safe.
Ackerman's made the front group as well. Not too many UAE riders in there. Of course, we have seen that Pogačar's there. I've seen too that Soler was definitely one of the riders caught out the back. This is the second group now.
Yep, Michael Matthews caught out in this group. I'm getting the impression now.
Tim Wellens in this group as well.
Yeah, there's a number of
Almeida's
UAE
in this group at 132. So this is slight advantage Visma, because UAE would be losing riders
Simon
from
Yates,
the top of the GC. Simon Yates has really lost time.
Groenewegen
in this group as well in terms of the sprints today, while Pauls has just been spotted.
Carapaz. Adam
Yates is here too. In fact, Tadej Pogačar, he might be almost completely isolated from his team at the front there.
Mads Pedersen here, number 45, also in that second group. To be expected. I was taking a tumble at 70k an hour yesterday. It's amazing he's still in the race, let alone now being able to ride his way up into the main group.
I'm looking at this group. UAE Emirates are easy to spot today. They have the yellow helmets. In this front group, there is only one. It's Tadej Pogacar against the world. And UAE Emirates have to be very, very careful. He's looking back here. Tadej Pogacar has made the front group. He's in that split, but he is the only man from his team in this group. Okay, there's no immediate danger for him, but if he has a problem, he has a mechanical, if anything happens, then the Tour de France could be in play today on a day where we expected a sprint.
He's entering the danger zone, and this is where they would have been relying on the likes of Niels Pollitt and Tim Wellens at least to be there. The others, yes, you can sort of find an excuse for them not being there when it hits the crosswinds, but in all honesty, it wasn't like it happened with a bang. It's been a slow burner. You just had to be riding position, and they've taken their eye off the ball and left Pogacar completely isolated.
Yeah, there's no excuse for that. To have no teammates as a yellow jersey wearer, UAE, the strongest team without a doubt coming into this race. Just going back here to Mark Cavendish. He's got a teammate here.
He's in conversation with the commissaire, so they may have just given the infamous whistle and the hand signal. No more sitting on so close on the back of your own team car for extended periods.
Meanwhile, at the front, 73.8 kilometres to go, almost getting towards halfway until we turn into more crosswind. It looks to have calmed down a little bit here as everyone's on the radio checking who's present and correct. They're sort of sitting up, and there's a real opportunity for UAE Team Emirates to try and save the day. Riders caught out behind, I think, include Mohoric further back here too.
Yeah, plenty of them caught out. You can see Tim Wellens, man in the yellow helmet, right of screen, also swapping turns at the front of this group in the chase. They need to get back to that front group in this tailwind section before they hit the next crosswind. If it kicks off again without them, that could be it, and leave Pogacar totally isolated the rest of the day. And we see the irritation from Mark Cavendish, just being so closely policed by the commissaires, a TV motorbike. It comes with the territory, doesn't it? When you in the rarefied air where he sits, they tend to look a little bit closer and scrutinise you even more harshly.
It's down to 19 seconds as a couple of teams quickly come to the front and start riding again. This will be a great position for the rest of the GC teams to try and put UAE under pressure, not just because of the time lost, of course. It's the uncomfortable feeling for Pogacar being all alone in here, just in case, what if. But as it stands, it's coming back together rather quickly, and a big effort is being put in behind to try and close this gap now before we get to the next sector. And if you can, you imagine that UAE will be being told, do not make the same mistake again.
Well, they've got another 8 or 9k to get themselves back into this group before they make a left-hand turn. A short section of crosswind after that before they turn right again into a tailwind. Looks like they're going to get away with it for now.
I'll tell you what, it's going to be the biggest sigh of relief, isn't it, if and when they do make it onto the back of this front group, that they have all missed it, bar, of course, the yellow jersey wearer.
They're lucky it's not proper windy.
This Melissa bike still right on the front. Here we go, let's get on the radar. Let's see the reaction from UAE.
4 is behind from us. Is Tadej just in front? Yes, only Tadej. Maybe Pavel also. Tadej or maybe Pavel.
Well, negative. Pavel's not there. No
I'd
yellow
love to hear
helmet
the
on the
reaction
top.
after that.
At first
that might not be
like
broadcast.
No.
Yeah, at first it sounded like Tadej was the one asking the question, talking about himself in the third person. Is it only Tadej in front? I mean me.
Now keep your eyes on this because it's getting closer, isn't it? It must be about 10 seconds now. There it is. Cavendish, by the way, at just under a minute now.
Well, this group will return. You see just the different shape of the two groups as well. Completely bunched in the front one, pace off. Nobody really pushing anymore in this tailwind. But behind, almost like a sprint lead out to get back on time. Here's Pollitt, third wheel.
Just getting him in there will be a huge victory, wouldn't it, for UAE? Not even thinking about riders there in the general classification, such as Almeida and Ayuso. They are going to get back, it seems, just in time too. Here we go. 10 metres, 5 metres, and contact. They are back. The day has been saved for now for UAE Team Emirates.
Still a bit of work to do. Get themselves in position now, back up around Tadej Pogacar, and try and weave their way through towards the front of this group, where Visma Lisa bike not missed a beat. They were the aggressors, but they were in position for a long time and then used everything. Oh, there is a real moment for Jonas Vingegaard.
With Lampy and Lampard not too happy.
Even for safety's sake. Even for safety's sake, for Jonas Vingegaard, you've got to use your voice, speak up and talk to the guy in front of you. You've got to avoid that.
$70 kilometres to go. It's the first moment for a while where there can be a bit of an intake of breath. Pogacar isn't going south to meet his teammates. He's very much staying where he is. And you'd expect that. His teammates now, one or two have to try and get through somehow to the front. Cavendish is back in the cars, which is good news for him.
No teammate now, though. We did see him with a teammate beforehand, but he is able to use the cars now, pick them off one by one. That you can see number 13, the car of EF. So he's slowly making his way back into the peloton here. We are going to have a crosswind though again in around 4 kilometers time. See Red Bull Hansgrohe really taking control here with Roglic. So we had a call, didn't we, with the DS of Red Bull, and he was explaining to us Van Poppel, Haller and Nico Denz had been brought into the Tour just to create that bubble constantly around Roglic, and you can see that here.
They were one of the most impressive teams, weren't they? Red Bull Bora Hansgrohe had big numbers in the front, as you say, led by Van Poppel. Now Wellens has made a big effort to get up towards Tadej Pogacar and into about 5th position on the right, as there's another mechanical issue now. It's time for Goudon. In fact, it's Gal, pardon me. Oh, no. And that is an issue, because if it's going to kick off again, there could be more time shipped in the general classification.
Yeah, Felix Gao, of course, the GC rider for Decathlon AG2R. Sam Bennett, though, a good option for them today.
Cavendish coming back. Went to see where Gal is and what kind of mechanical issue he had.
See Tom Pidcock as well. We saw him towards the back. I think he was one of the riders from Ineos to miss out on that front group. You can see him on the right-hand side, just trying to make his way up to his teammates. You can see Geraint Thomas, the last of those 4 on the right-hand side.
It's tense and nervy. And in all the chaos, trying to get some food, trying to get some hydration, which we know is mightily important. And even now, still through the feed zone, they fight for position. 35 on the right-hand side, that was Kwiatkowski moving up. A look around from Ben Turner there, because he's trying to find Carlos Rodriguez. Rodriguez, who has, as you said, Danny, Geraint Thomas sat on his wheel behind him. And Mark Cavendish is returning with another word with the commissaires. We're seeing another side to Mark Cavendish today.
He's irritated. Not necessarily a bad sign for his performance.
A very warm welcome back to television viewers as Mark Cavendish returns with a word for the commissaires.
This is the hardest car to sit behind in the entire convoy. Nothing on its roof. It's a lower profile sedan. Doesn't give you that slipstream like a station wagon does, or an estate, I think you might call it over here.
Station wagon. Yeah. You're going down to the bottom.
Okay, and we'll even include the Europeans and call it a breg.
Got me there.
Me
Mind
too,
you,
Rob.
you are talking to the man who doesn't have a driving license. 66 k's to go.
Does that stop you from driving a car?
Yes.
It should do. I hope it does.
Thankfully, for most people, it does.
Rob, you're driving the commentary, so, you know. You're unlicensed for that too, aren't you? But you do a good job.
thankfully, I think the consequences are much more benign if it goes wrong.
Should have ate more today.
Here we go at the front. Again, the nerves build.
Even trash food would have been better.
Red Bull bore a handscry there again. A couple of radio communications, making sure everybody's present and correct. This Melissa bike, they've been infallible in all of this so far. Left-hand side. Benud's been right up there. Mywhoosh sits in third wheel. Movistar had quite a few bodies in as well, didn't they? They were good with Gaviria. Aramburu, the Spanish champion, was there. Led by the former Spanish champion, Oyer Lascano.
Last one, dude.
EF Education Easy Post, this time trying to get more bodies into the front split. Healy's not far away. Big Costa, he missed out last time. We're going to say goodbye to Danny Rowe. We're going to hear from Danny on the breakaway, and there'll be plenty to talk about on the stage with Orla and everybody else at the conclusion of it. Don't forget to stay tuned and join them afterwards. If you have to miss anything, reminder that everything is on Discovery Plus, live and on demand each every day.
Well, didn't that last 25 kilometres fly by?
Watching it intently with Sean Kelly. We'll let him finish wolfing on his energy gels and bars before he comes back, and he's going to need them all because this is non-stop at the minute. Bahrain victorious do not want to make the same mistake this time, Robbie McEwen. They've got riders to the front. They want to keep them end of the front, notably for today, Phil Bauhaus.
That's what you tend to see when teams, individual riders have missed a split like that. They come back to the front and they maybe end up doing a little bit too much when there's nothing happening. They're so nervous about missing the next when they prop themselves right up the front. They're all eyes, all ears, and then nothing's going on for a bit, and you've just got to keep that concentration all day on a day like today. As Red Bull, Bora are doing on the right-hand side with Primoz Roglic. Opposite side of the road, his old team of his Melissa bike. Ineos are right in the middle.
In a section again where if it's blowing strong enough, it's blowing from the right direction. But it seems to be more nerves than anything else. There's an illustration of that. 18 kilometers per hour, sort of on the limit really of being able to push it and do it.
Yeah, they're just on the next part of the course that could have a little bit of crosswind. It's going in the right direction, but as you can see, it's heavily forested at the moment on the left-hand side, and they're just riding behind a bit of a ridge line as well, so not getting buffeted by the wind. And in another 5 kilometres or so, they'll turn right again into a tailwind, which will bring them through in that pretty much that same direction until 44 kilometres from the finish. Then it's back to the left. Open sections, wind from the left. Let's see what Jens has to tell us about it all.
The tricky part today is for the teams and the riders to stay focused without burning energy, without being in the wind too much. Ideally, you want to be 10 to 20th position all day long, but every single one wants to do that. So there's this constant washing machine thing going on. You get flushed to the back, you move up to the front. Riders use a lot of energy just to stay in a good position, and you always want to be ready, but you don't want to be in the wind. So it's a fine line, and right now we have again perfectly 90-degree wind coming from that side, and the wind is definitely strong enough to split it back up again. Roads quality are mimi, and the road's a little bit smaller. So for sure there will be stress on everyone. The tricky part is to keep your powder dry for the important part at the final of the race. Back to the commentators.
I'm not sure I've ever heard of road quality, mimi, but I'm not exactly sure what it is, but I assume it's not of the very highest quality.
Doesn't seem like it, does it, as we see Valentin Mywhoosh. He has an issue going back to the car here. Just in front of him is Javier Romo. And then Mark Cavendish with his bodyguards and helpers, including Mika Marco and Davide Ballerini. We're in the Département de la Côte d'Or. And well, we've got our own golden
Gotta
boy
go,
back
got a
with
dinner
us
to
now,
go to.
Mr. Sean Kelly.
Thanks for
His
watching.
energy gels, he's
Subscribe, like.
ready to go again.
Check you guys tomorrow.
Yes, well, it was a very interesting section there, but it has been interesting all day because it has been, you know, that just it's brewing away there, waiting for the moment we just had there for that final, that last 25 kilometres. And it's still going on. You can see here the way, you know, they're all just keeping their positions. And yeah, for some it's a horrendous day, for others it's not so bad. And